right, you guys, as you can see by the thumbnail, I got another banger for you guys. So staying true to his word, my guy called me last night. I got this story last night, and I wanted to put it out yesterday, but I got caught up doing some other things. It got real late, so I'm gonna get it out to you guys today. Hopefully it won't get out too late. But before I get into the details of this, I want to say a couple of things real quick. So it's a trip to see or to hear about the parallels and some of the similarities between the Mexican Mafia and the Nuestra Familia. It's a trip. Obviously, as a former NF member, I knew a lot about the Mexican Mafia. I studied the Mexican Mafia. Damn gizmo. I studied the Mexican Mafia, their leadership, how they function, the internal workings, how they pull paperwork, how they treated some of their new arrivals, how they went about their, different processes within the organization. And it's a trip to hear about some of these things because we used to do things the same way. The only difference is some of the terminology is different. When it comes to new arrivals and how they pull paperwork and how they approach individuals, and when it comes to delegating leadership or delegating positions and how they addressed leaders, and there's so many parallels. It's crazy. It's almost like talking to another NF member or somebody that was a part of the NF, because there's just so many similarities. But anyways, let me get into this story right here. So this story involves three household names, three Mexican Mafia members that have been around. And I say household names because these individuals, I'm sure you guys have heard a lot of stories about them, especially Alfie Sosa from Happy Valley. This is somebody that I know personally. I was with Alfie in Pelican Bay between 95 and 98. I was in C facility with them. And, I've always referred to Alfie as like the Joe Pesci of the Mexican Mafia. He's a short guy. He's probably like 3'6", 3'7". He's a little dude. He's small in stature, but he's a rambunctious type of individual. Talks loud with a lot of energy, pushes a hard line. That's how Alfie is. He's kind of like he'll now ask questions later type of individual. That's the kind of leader that Alfie was. Rest in peace to Alfie. I know he just passed away not too long ago, a couple years. I don't remember exactly when it happened, but he passed away. Anyways, so Alfie was one individual that is a part of this story. Another household name that I don't know, never met him, is Terco from Bassett Grande. Now, again, this is somebody that I've heard about. I've heard him mentioned in numerous stories that have been told, not only on YouTube, but I've heard of Terco before in the past. He's just one of those individuals that's just always in the fray. He's always, he's active. He's active within that organization. So, guys like that are part of their leadership, that are doing things out there on the streets, you're always going to hear about them. When these indictment cases hit, you hear about some of these same individuals that are a part of that little circle. And then you got Indio from El Sereno. That's another household name. This is a guy that I've heard a lot of different stories about. I'm sure you guys that follow the Mexican Mafia history have also heard these names as well. So let me get straight into this story right here. Now, my guy that told me this story, just so it's clear to you guys, he told me that he was there when all this happened. So this is something that he actually experienced himself. He was there on the yard when all this stuff was taking place, and he ran into some of these individuals later. And you guys understand as I go along what I'm talking about. So anyways, this story right here starts out in New Folsom, C facility, level 4, 180. And Alfie's out there. Alfie's doing his thing out there. He's got the yard established. There's drugs coming in. And now there's a Sureño, and I'm going to call him Capone for the sake of this story. And that's because my guy that told me this story wants to keep this individual anonymous. So like I said, I'm going to call him Capone just so that I can tell you guys this story. So there's this guy Capone that's out there, and he's well known throughout the system. He's well known. He's always worked under different Mexican Mafia members. He takes care of business. he's somebody that's known for putting in a lot of work, for generating a lot of money. And like I said, he's always functioned under different, Mexican mafia members. So he's part of the circle. I would imagine he was one of their camaradas. So, he's a lifer. He's somebody that always has drugs coming in, and he was always out there making money for the M on different yards throughout the time that he's been down. Now, he's been down now for about 30 years, but throughout that 30 years, he's bounced around in different prisons and has always made money, has always functioned under the M, has a lot of credibility with them. Like I said, this is somebody that's well known throughout the system, within their people, within the Sureños, within the Mexican mafia. Now, some of you might even know who this individual is. You might have been there in Folsom when this incident happened. I don't know. If you do, put them in the comments. With all due respect, he didn't want to put him out there, probably because he knows them, and they still have they still have ties together or whatever, but that's his business. Anyways, so this individual is out there, and Alfie knows, he knows his history. He knows that he has a history of slinging dope out there, and that, this guy right here is he's a go-getter. He makes money. He makes money out there. So Alfie, at the time, this guy's hitting drugs. They know he's hitting drugs, but they don't know exactly how it's coming in. They just know that it's coming in. However, this guy is using his family to bring the drugs in. And that's probably why he didn't want everybody to know. I got my lady bringing it in, or my mom, or my sister, whatever. But he doesn't put it out there and tell people exactly how it's coming through the visiting room. He tells them that it's coming through some other way. Anyways, so he's out there, he's making money like he's always done in the past. So one of the other things that I didn't say is that, even when they used to go on long lockdowns, this guy used to still meet his quota. Nobody knows how he was doing it, but he used to still meet his quota. He would always pay, the Mexican mafia what he was supposed to pay, whatever he was paying, whatever quota he had, whether it was monthly, weekly, whatever it was, he was always meeting that quota. So he had a lot of credibility. Anyway, so they know that, he's hitting, that he's out there, he's slinging, and that he's making money. But nobody really asks him, like, how much. They just basically take his word for it. He's hitting a couple grams, or a half ounce, or whatever it is. But he doesn't tell them exactly how much he's hitting. He just tells them whatever he wants to tell them. Obviously, because he probably don't want him to take, most of his stuff. So the only one that's, that knows what he's doing is his celly. Obviously, if he's going out to the visiting room and then he's coming back in, and he gets on the shitter and he's pulling something out, I'm pretty sure his celly was smart enough to figure out, put two and two together and figure out, this guy, that's how he's bringing it in, through the visiting room. They're in the cell, they're talking. His celly probably told, hey, who came up to see you? Oh, that was my wife and my sister. So, like I said, he put two and two together, and he knows that it's coming from his family and his girl. Anyway, so his celly keeps his mouth shut for the most part. He keeps it under wraps. He doesn't put his business out there, and everything's cool. Everything's good for a while. This guy's making money, and he's breaking Alfie off what he's supposed to, and there's no issues. However, one time his celly, he ends up getting loaded. He gets all twacked out. He goes out to the yard, and he starts running his mouth, and he exposes his celly. He puts it out there. He tells somebody that, he knows that he's getting this much in, and that it's coming in through the visiting room, and it's coming in through his girl, whatever. He puts his business out there. So that somebody ends up telling somebody else that tells somebody else, and it gets back to Alfie. So now Alfie's pissed. He feels like he's getting shortchanged. Like, this guy's playing him. Like, how come he ain't keeping it real? How come he's just not telling me what he's bringing in? There's policies that this guy has to adhere to, and now he's lying. So what Alfie does is, this guy's at work the day that this all happens, and apparently Alfie is out there on the yard with his entourage. I still can't get over this entourage thing with these guys, with all these guys, Mexican Mafia members. The ABs are probably doing it too, the NF. Anyway, so Alfie's out there with his entourage, and they're waiting for this guy to get off of work. Now, I'm going to call this guy Capone. Like I said, I don't know if I mentioned that already, but for the sake of this story, I'm going to call him Capone because my guy said that he wants him to remain anonymous. But again, you know, some of you might even know who this individual is. So Capone's at work. He gets off work and Alfie's out there waiting for him. So boom, he's walking across the yard. Alfie at some point ends up catching up to him and he pulls him over. He's like, yeah, somebody tells him that Alfie wants to holler at him. So this guy's like, man, what's he want to holler at me about? Must be some, am I in trouble? What's going on? He's never really dealt with Alfie in the past. The other two Mexican Mafia members that I mentioned to you guys, Indio from El Sereno and Terco from Bassett Grande, those two Mexican Mafia members are the two that this guy Capone has worked under for years. Those are the main two that he's always worked under. So there's some loyalty there between these guys. He's worked under them. He's made a lot of money for him. He's jumped through loops for him. He's done some personal favors for him. So there's a lot of respect there. And, they hold him in some type of high regard because, it's just like me. If I had a buffer out there, a second in command, or even somebody that was running dope for me, and this was somebody that I could depend on. He had a lot of credibility with me. I would hold him in high regard, and I would bat for him if he ever got in trouble, or I'd vouch for him. So it's the same kind of situation with these guys. Anyway, so this guy goes to Alfie. He catches up with Alfie on the yard, and he's like, "Hey, what's up? Alfie, I heard you wanted to talk to me." And Alfie tells him, he's like, "Hey." He's like, is there something you want to tell me? And Alfie's pissed. Obviously he's pissed. The way he comes at him, he comes at him aggressively. And, this guy Capone, he's like, nah, there's not. And he's like, you sure? There's nothing you want to tell me, huh? And Capone's like, nah, I mean, everything's good, man. And he's like, I don't know what's going on. And Alfie tells him, he's like, bro, what do I look? Do I look stupid? Do I look stupid? Do I look like a clown? I'm telling you, Joe Pesci right here. What did Joe Pesci say in that movie? What, I make you laugh? I'm a clown now? Huh? You think I'm a clown? I'm funny? Well, that's what Joe Pesci, that's what Joe Pesci said in that movie. But Alfie's like, what I look like a dummy? I look like an idiot? You think I'm stupid now? So Alfie tells him, you know what? I know what you're doing. I know that you're getting this amount of drugs in. I know how it's coming in. He's like, but you know what, man? Since you want to play stupid, you want to dumb me up, and you want to lie to me in my face. He's like, so what you're going to do now, you're going to go to your cell, give me your cell phone, and give me all the whole clavo. Everything that you got, give it to me. I want it. Since you want to lie to my face, that's how we're going to do this. So, this guy, obviously Capone, he's like, man, this is, I'm going to take my cell phone, going to take my dope. Obviously, Capone was probably pissed off, but what can he do? If he refuses to give it up, they're going to whack him. So at that point, Capone starts walking towards his building to go get the phone and the clavo. And Alfie sends somebody to go over there with him to collect it, to pick it up. So they're walking over there. They get to the building. Capone gets his cell phone. Here's his cell phone. He gets the clavo, and he's like, you know what? He's like, I'm not going to give it all to you, bro. He's like, I'll give you most of it, but I'm going to take a couple grams. So this other guy, obviously, he's part of Alfie's inner circle. He's like, hey, bro, don't get mad at me. You're the one that put yourself in this situation. He's like, hey, man, do what you want to do, but I wouldn't advise you to do that. So anyway, this guy, Capone, he cuts a little piece off, cuts his couple grams off or whatever, and he gives him the rest. So at that point, Capone's pissed off now. He knows somebody exposed his hand, but he doesn't know who. The only person, though, that knows is his celly. So when they're doing this transaction, he's giving this guy his cell phone and the clavo. It's like a light goes off, and he looks over at his celly, and he's like, it's got to be this cat. He's the only one that knows his business. I mean, he's in the cell with him. He sees everything that he's doing. Don't nobody else on that yard know those details. So at lockdown, everybody's in their cells. They're waiting to go to chow or whatever, and they're in the cell, and Capone's pissed. He jams up his celly. He knows that it was him that put it out there. He can't prove it, but he jams him up. Obviously, he denied it, but Capone goes in on him. He tries to kill him in the cell. He tries to kill him. They both end up getting rolled up. So after that incident, they go to ADSEG. They're there for however long they were there, a month, maybe 2 months. They both end up getting transferred out. Capone, he ends up in Corcoran on C Yard where Indio from El Sereno's at. And he gets there, and like I said, this is somebody that he's worked under in the past. So anyway, when he pulls up, he gets there and he's approached by another guy named Trigger from Highland Park. Now, Trigger was kind of like the spokesman for Indio, per se. He's kind of like the spokesman. He's the one that pulls paperwork, that, when new arrivals pull up, he gathers their information. He's part of their screening process. And, when he gets there, when Capone gets there, he knows Trigger from the past. And he's like, bro, they got you in a leadership position? Huh? He's like, damn, what the hell? How did that happen? I guess he knew Trigger from the past, and he knew his whole get down. And Trigger tells him, man, I cleaned up my act. I stopped using, and dude's like, I know what you did last time. It was one of those kind of things. And so anyways, he trips out that Trigger's there, and Trigger's part of the leadership, or part of, he's the spokesman for Indio. So anyways, at one point, Indio hears that Capone hits the yard. He goes out there with his entourage. He goes out there with his entourage, and he gets a chance to pull Capone over, and he's like, bro, what happened? You know what I mean? What happened? I heard about what happened over there in New Folsom, but like, tell me what happened. Give me the details. So they talk about it. Capone breaks everything down, tells him, what happened over there, why he got transferred, and the fight that he got into with the celly. And Indio's like, you know what? Don't trip, because Capone's worried, like, is this gonna follow me? Am I gonna have issues behind what happened over there? So Indio's like, you know what? Don't trip. We're gonna get to the bottom of it. So what they do, so they arrange a conference call, and the conference call was between Terco, who was in High Desert at that time, Alfie, who was in New Folsom, and then you got Indio, who was right there in Corcoran. It's crazy how this works now. You guys see how it works? You got 3 different prisons, 3 different high-ranking Mexican mafia members that are able to just tap in with the cell phone, just in real time. There's no lag, there's no delay, none of that stuff. They don't have to write no huilas, nothing like that. They just pick up a phone, and now they're doing conference calls. So anyways, they get on the phone, and they're having a conversation, and Indio's asking Alfie what happened, what led to the situation that happened over there. And Alfie's telling him, hey, this guy lied to me. He didn't tell me how much he was getting, and you heard about it through this way, and it didn't come through him. And they're talking about it. So whatever reason, they don't get to finish that conversation. Indio, Alfie, and Terco. So I don't know what happened, but whatever happened, they didn't get to finish the conversation. So after the phone call, Alfie, he's like, he's brainstorming. Now he's thinking about the situation. He's like, man, this guy just called me on a conference call, and he's thinking about it. And he's like, okay, so this guy's over there with Terco. So Alfie's like, he's thinking about it. And he's like, okay, so Terco and Indio, they've worked with this guy before. So they got his back. There's some loyalty there. Alfie's smart enough to figure that out. So Alfie wants this individual killed behind what happened. He feels like he got shortchanged. This guy, he didn't pay him what he was supposed to pay him, and then he gets rolled up, and Alfie don't get to cash in on none of that. So Alfie's pissed off, and he wants this dude dead. He doesn't want him hit. He wants him killed. But he's thinking about it. He's like, so he's over there with Indio now, and he's got Terco on his side. And they're going to help this dude. They're going to probably try to help him. And this is going to create bigger problems if this dude starts talking about my business, what was going on this yard. So what Alfie does is he makes some phone calls to some other individuals that he knew that were on that same yard, that were over there in Corcoran, that were there with Capone and Indio. Obviously, these are some Sureños that they had some type of loyalty to Alfie, or they just, they were intimidated by who he was, his name, and he's giving them a directive to kill this individual. So who knows what their mentality was, or who knows what he told them. He could have told them something like, hey, this is something that only we know about right here, and you're to keep this under wraps. It's something it's a special assignment, and this is something that doesn't normally happen, but I need you two guys to kill this individual. Don't go report it to nobody. Don't go ask nobody nothing. Just go kill this individual. Make sure you kill him. So these guys thinking like, yeah, man, I'm gonna go put this lick down for the C, and this is a special assignment or whatever he told them. So these two Sureños, one of them was Stevie from El Monte Hicks, and he didn't know he didn't remember the other one, but there were two Sureños that had been there for a while. So these Sureños, after they get this directive from Alfie, they get their bangers, and now they put a plan in motion to hit this individual on the yard. They don't tell nobody. Nobody knows about this. Again, they think that this is all part of the plan. They're not to report this to nobody. It's some super secret squirrel type of stuff. So, they go out to the yard. They see Capone out there, and when the opportunity presented itself, so they're on this guy. They're booking him. Both of them, they got bangers. They're both hitting this dude. And, at one point, the gunner sees what's happening. So the gunner fires off a round, puts the yard down, and they're still on this individual. They're trying to kill him, but they don't. They break it up. They end up proning him out. They handcuff him. They take all three of them to the hole. Well, I think they took Capone to the hospital so that he could recuperate. He had some holes in him, but it wasn't nothing life-threatening. Now, understand this. I told you guys how they were pushing a hard line as far as if they tell somebody to hit somebody, it means to kill them. But if they don't kill them, it's considered a fail. Well, this situation right here, regardless, they were in trouble either way, because they just hit this individual on Indio's yard without telling Indio. When Indio hears about it, he's pissed. He's like, how did this happen? Who gave these guys authorization to whack this dude? That's his yard. One Mexican mafia member can't just give directives to some Sureños on another yard that's being ran by another Mexican mafia member and have somebody hit on their yard without getting clearance or authorization with that Mexican mafia member first. So Indio's pissed. So Indio's like, I don't know who gave them clearance to move on Capone, but both of them are no good. They both got green lights on them now because they did that. That's like disrespect. It's a slap in the face that somebody else gave directives to hit this guy on Indio's yard. That's not how it works. It's bad politics. So anyways, they all go to the hole. They're there for a while. I don't know how long. When something like this usually happens, they're there for probably like 6 months to a year. It depends. The time varies. It depends on how fast classification tries to get you out of there. So meanwhile, Capone is still there waiting to get transferred out. While he's there, IGI approaches him and he tells him, look, you got a green light on you. We even seen Alfie's, we seen something in writing that came from Alfie that says he wants you dead. So, it's in your best interest to go ahead and PC up. But in Capone's mind, he's like, hell no, I'm not PCing up. I don't need to be PC'd up. He believed in his heart that Terco and Indio were going to clear him. So he refuses to go to protective custody. And so when that happens in CDC, they have a slip it's basically a release of liability that you can sign that slip and you can go back out to a mainline. This is after they tell you that there's a threat and they warn you, but if you refuse to go to protective custody, you sign off and basically release them out of liability. So that's what he did. Him believing that Terco and Indio were going to clear him and that they had his back, he signed that. So at that point, he gets transferred to Solano. So he gets to Solano, and Babo Castellanos has that yard from Florencia, Dablas's brother. He just recently passed away not too long ago as well. I believe he got released under some type of medical compassionate release or something like that. He was dying, so they let him go, and then he ended up passing away. So, but Babo was there. And, Babo heard about it. He heard about everything that had happened with this individual. But again, this Sureño was somebody that had been around. This was somebody that had a lot of credibility with the Mexican mafia. His name was a familiar name amongst a lot of different Mexican mafia members. Babo heard about it. He heard about what happened in Corcoran. He heard about what happened in Folsom. But Babo was the kind of Mexican mafia member that if it didn't involve him or his crew, he'd give you an opportunity to program. He wasn't that type of individual that would politic against you. So Babo let him program out there. However, Babo wasn't there for that long. He ended up getting released on that compassionate release. When he got released, Capone's problems started to surface again. The thing is regardless of you getting cleared in a situation like this, once you get involved in something like this, Mexican mafia, Nuestra Familia, whatever, you get involved in these type of situations, you're always going to have a dark cloud of suspicion hanging over your head. It just comes with the territory, even if you get cleared. And sometimes, at least in the past, when I was around, good news travels like molasses. It travels slow. So sometimes you could get cleared, but it doesn't travel fast enough and you end up getting hit, and those types of things happen. But now with everybody having cell phones, communicating, networking, communication is up to par, and people know before you get transferred out. Phone calls are being made before that happens. Anyway, so they find out, I don't know if Alfie found out he was there in Solano. Nobody was there, but Alfie still wanted this individual dead. He wanted him dead. So, this guy, Capone, he's out there, he's programming, he's trying to put all that past him, hoping that, he's got life. He's hoping to just get past it and get back to doing what he was doing, hitting his dope, getting his visits, and just programming. But he starts to sense that something's happening on that yard. He can feel it, and he's been down for about 30 years. So anyways, he's out there on the yard one day, and he's watching the yard and he's reading the yard, and he can sense it. He's like, man, are you serious? These dudes are really gonna come at me again? And after everything I've been through, why are these cats still tripping? Like, man, Alfie really took that personal. So he's out there on the yard in Solano, and he senses that they're gonna come at him. Like I said, he's reading the yard and he just feels it. So all of he's over there by the dip bar doing dips or whatever he was doing out there, and all of a sudden he hears the alarm go off. Then he hears gunfire. They're moving on somebody on the yard. It's the Sureños. They're hitting somebody else. However, that was a diversionary tactic. That was supposed to happen. They're killing two birds with one stone. But the major target was Capone. So he's sitting there, he's proned out, and the plan is for them to hit this other individual that had smut on him for whatever reason, to whack him so that the majority of the yard officers would go to that area over there, would respond to that incident so that these guys could kill Capone. They wanted to kill him. So the best way to do it is to create a diversion so that they could get on this guy and stay on him and have a better chance of killing him. So that's what they did. Capone's proned out, thinking that, he's thinking that, at least he's going to be around for a little bit longer. It's not going to be him because they put the yard down for that other incident. So he's proned out when all of a sudden two individuals pop up. Chief from Sanfe and Shotgun from 18th Street. They both pop up and they both got bangers and they came at him. He sees them coming. They're right there, right in the vicinity where he's at, but he sees them coming. So he pops up and they start fighting. They're going in on him. They're trying their best to get this dude. So these guys are youngsters. They're scared. According to what Capone would say later, these guys were scared. He could see it in their eyes. They were damn near shaking. So they're on him, and at one point, Capone slips on the concrete, and the youngster gets on him. So he's hitting him, bam, bam, bam. And these guys had bone crushers. So they're still going in on them. They're trying to get them, but they're not hitting them in the right places. They're not going to kill them. Not the way that they were inexperienced. So the gunner sees what's happening and he fires off a round in that area over there where they're trying to hit Capone. And, you know, they keep going, The gunner fires off another round. So all three of them are proned out. They take them to ADSEG. They take them all to ADSEG. They got to take, I don't know if they had to take Capone to the outside hospital, but I'm sure they took him to the infirmary. They medically cleared him at one point, and then they take him to ADSEG where they got everybody else. Now in ADSEG, the way that they had it all kind of segregated. They had the Sureños on one side, they had the Bulldogs on another side, and I think they had the Africanos on another. Told me that they kind of had it split up. So they ended up putting Capone in the same section where these youngsters were at. And he said he would later tell, you know, my guy that when he walked in there, it was almost like they looked like they seen a ghost. These guys were young. They were young and, like I said, very inexperienced. But they ended up getting deemed as well because it was a complete fail. They didn't even put him in the hospital. He had no life-sustaining injuries or nothing like that. They whacked him. They scratched him up. He got a couple nicks, maybe a couple puncture wounds, but it was nothing that was life-threatening. But, you know, that's basically the crux of the story right there. You know, there's a couple parts that I think about when I look at the whole story, you know, in totality as a whole. Obviously, there's a lot of dirty politics going on a lot of these different yards. We all know that. This is validated by the fact that I think Alfie really wanted Capone dead because he didn't want Capone to talk about some of the things that Alfie was doing over there as far as politicking and just the way that he was running his yard. Alfie was worried about something. The other thing is, like, it's just crazy. You know, you have a Sureño that is loyal, that showed his loyalty on numerous occasions. This was somebody that put in work. He wasn't just somebody that sold drugs and, you know, generated a lot of money for the Mexican mafia. He ended up putting work in the past himself. So this was somebody that was loyal to the Mexican mafia. But you get one sour individual, one sour Mexican mafia member that has an agenda, and this guy's career is over. All that loyalty is gone. This is somebody that, you know, he didn't really hurt the organization. This is all because somebody's ego was hurt. Alfie was mad because he felt like he got shortchanged. He felt like he wasn't getting the amount of drugs and money that was due to him. And I can understand that as a former leader, that you feel like any kind of acts of insubordination or lying, it warrants some type of discipline, but it doesn't warrant killing somebody over. That's the type of individual Alfie was. Like I said, he was a kill now, ask questions later type of individual. And that's reckless. At least in my opinion, that's reckless. The other individuals that were involved, obviously Terco and Indio, both of these guys sounded like righteous Mexican mafia members. This was somebody that worked under them. They did what they could, you know, to help this guy. But Alfie had long reach, and somebody like him that has that much influence is dangerous. You see, he was able to even have this guy hit on another yard in another prison that was being ran by another Mexican mafia member. And everybody knows basic politics. You don't do that. That'd just be like, it'd be like me putting a green light on another NF member or a norteño in another prison on another yard that's being ran by another NF member. That's bad politics. That's going to create a lot of bad blood and bad friction between me and that individual, because you don't do that. That's not how it works. There's protocol to go about doing things like that. If there's a target and he's on another yard and I'm aware of the fact that that yard is being ran by another NF member, it's my responsibility to reach out to that individual and tell him, hey, brother, hey, this individual that's over there, he needs to go. With all due respect, I'm asking for your blessings to have that dude whacked. Whack him. He's no good for this, and that. At that point, if this guy decides not to do it, it's a done deal. It's squashed. But if I push the issue and have it done anyway, that could not only get me in trouble, but it just creates bad blood. You know, the last thing I'll say is that it's evident that dirty politics are being played across the board, which I already knew, but it's just a trip to see it, you know, within the Mexican mafia and the Sureños. You always know about these things, you hear about these things, but to really hear it, the nitty gritty, the details of it, it's almost like deja vu all over again, because I've heard some of those same exact stories, you know, about former NF members or hermanos, norteños that ended up getting crossed up over some bullshit. But it just goes to show you, you know, that these guys put a lot of emphasis on drugs and money. That's what's ending a lot of careers for a lot of solid, good individuals. They're getting hit behind money and drugs, or in some cases like this one here, over somebody's ego. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this story right here. He's supposed to call me tonight. We'll see what happens. I got an Inner Demons hopefully going out next. And then I got the Black Widow podcast with Jay Hands hopefully by tonight. We'll see what happens. I don't know. I got a full plate. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this story right here. Tell me what you guys think. Drop your comments. I'm interested to see what you guys are thinking about this stuff. Anyways, I'll have another banger for you guys hopefully tomorrow. With that said, this your boy B, and I'm out.